How you guys doing? Gotta focus. There it is. Alright, so I apologize, it's taken me forever to post another video, but figured today I'd post something. It's not necessarily like my other videos. Hopefully this helps the people out there that ask me all the time. And that is, you know, people come up to me and they, oh, I like your reptiles. I really like what you're doing. I want to start getting into reptiles. I wanted this. I want to be able to do this and be able to do that, but I think it's just too hard. Or I don't know how to do it and I don't know where to start. Now, everyone's different. A bearded dragon might be a best or a better option for you, or even a Kenyan sand boa. It really just depends on what you want. Obviously, do your research beforehand, getting any animal. You want to make sure, you want to know their temperament with guidelines. You want to know the care, the maintenance, all that stuff behind it before you ever purchase any animal. I strongly recommend ball pythons. They're a great beginner snake. They come in several different morphs or paint jobs. For instance, this one here is a pied, possible yellow belly, possible inchy. Won't know about the possibilities until, you know, she's old enough to breed and prove these out. However, just as a normal pied, it's a high white, real pretty. They come in a variety, a wide spectrum of colors, and you know, they're just, for me, they're the easiest, most rewarding snake that I have. I do have the Kenyan sand boas that I mentioned earlier. To me, I mean, they're simple, they're easy, but they're just not as rewarding as a ball python. Just as pet quality is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about anything else. You can't really hold a sand boa like you can a ball python. And there's reasons behind it. You know, there's several factors behind it, but a sand boa is not going to hold on to you. Just to make it short, sorry. So I'm just going to go over how to take care of something like this. If it's going to focus. Something like this, or even a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit bigger. Not too much bigger than this for the cares that I'm going to give, or not so much care, but for the size that I'm going to explain. Let me put this girl up. Simple. It's the easiest thing ever, especially from that small, that size, or even smaller. You start out with this. A 10 gallon aquarium. Several different methods of lids and whatnot. I strongly recommend these. It's just your basic, what they call screen top, screen lid, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's more like a metal mesh. But this right here, strongly recommend realistically for any size tank, and I'll explain that. The next thing that you'll need is a light. The bulb, to be honest, I go out to like Dollar General, Walmart, and I'll get a $100 to $150 or 100 to 150 watt light bulb, regular light bulb. These snakes don't need UV, no special lighting, they just need heat. So just a regular light bulb will work. Now mind you, you're going to want to, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, you're going to want to fluctuate, if I'm saying that right, the temperatures. I'll explain that here in a second too. Regular light bulb in your dome light, Could be, you know, a big dome light. I prefer ones with a switch. I've had chicks, baby chickens. So I have what they call brooder lights. It's the same thing. It just don't have a switch on the cord. I got them all plugged up to a power strip. I just turn it on, turn it off, whatever, all right there. Regardless, in the ones in the room anyways. Gotta be quiet. But you can just easily sit that right there, not worry about it burning, melting, none of that. This is all metal. That's why I recommend it. Sit it down, boom, good to go. Now, just putting the lid on like that, even with the lamp on it, it's not going to deteriorate, or that's not the word I'm looking for. It's not going to discourage your snake from trying to escape that. So you'll need to put weight on it. Could be anything, as long as, and I can't even really give you an exact poundage or whatnot, but a snake like this, I'd put at least 10 pounds on there, and that's overkill. You know, this is not going to, I don't see this being able to push up 10 pounds. I've never had no problems with it regardless. But with that being said, you don't want to put it only on one side, because the other side, you know, is still flimsy. Or not so much flimsy, but it's still weak. Center, and it's easier, not so much easier, but both sides are tighter down, and you really don't have no problem. Now, there's other ways to go about that without needing weight on top of the lid. Gotta be quiet. And that is they're little strips of metal. It's really like a spring. They just slip onto the lid, and you just clip them onto the side of the tank, the plastic of the tank. A lot of people have success with that. It's great. More power to you. I just prefer doing it like this, and then I'll put weight on there and just call it a day. So the next thing is a hide. Now, this can be anything. This is a store-bought, I think it's a Zilla. Yep, this is a store-bought Zilla hide. 2-hole, whatever, 2 entries, whatever you want to call it. Could set that up in there however you want to. Now, it don't have to be this big. You want to make sure that your snake can fit in it comfortably, but it don't have to be super big. This one just barely fits in there. I'll pull it up to show you. Just barely fits in there. Okay, you can see the TV going. But, and look, actually, pull it back up. She's going into the hide. Okay. So, now you got your light, you got your dome, you got your tank, you got your lid, ready to go, right? Water bowl. Now, she's a little bit too big for this bowl. I generally like to keep my bowls bigger than the snake. That way they can coil up into the water bowl so they can soak. They like to do this typically before shed. They like to sit in their water bowl. I've experienced snakes that do it right before they shed, every time they shed. And then I've also experienced snakes that don't do it whatsoever. And when I say snakes, I'm talking about ball pythons just as a whole. I know it could be confusing because I did also mention that I have the sand boas and I have the red tail boas. I got corn snakes. I got, you know, so when I say snakes in this video, I'm talking about ball pythons. So I like to make sure the snake is able to fit in the bowl if he or she does so choose to. This isn't this one's enclosure. This is just to show you guys. But you just put it in there. Boom. Now that don't look like much space for this little snake. But again, you know, at this size, it's just about to outgrow this tank. Probably wasn't the best snake to show you guys for the 10-gallon setup. Just everything that you see in this video, you just want to make sure it's big enough for your snake. The tank is the only thing that you'd have to adjust with that, if you do so choose to keep it in an aquarium tank. General rule of thumb, as long as they can stretch out, it's good to go. Some people tell you, you know, if it can stretch out two sides, you know, so we're going to talk about the front, which is the long side here, and then, I know you guys can't see it, but the side that you guys kept seeing through when I kept bringing it up. So that's going to be the front, and then one of the sides. If your snake can stretch that, generally, you're good. It's really based off your preference. Now, mind you, I got just about 40 snakes. So, in order to have all 40 snakes in tanks, it's realistically unrealistic. So, there's other ways and methods of doing it. I have totes or rack systems that I house most of my ball pythons in. Everything else is in a different type of enclosure. For instance, my red tails, they got big enclosures and whatnot. Real nice setups. My Samboas, they do have glass enclosures, aquariums, whatever you want to call them. But regardless, with the snakes, ball pythons, this works just fine until they outgrow it, obviously, and then you can bump up. Some people will say, you know, a 20 long minimum. But here's the thing. You don't want to put something this size in, let's say, a 55. Because that could stress them out. It could be too big for them. It could stress them out. And a stressed out snake is never good because several different things, you know. The snake's stressed out. It might stop eating. It might start acting different. It might start being more aggressive when you try to handle it. This snake, I don't have no issues with. You know, she's puppy dog, which typically, a little head shy, but typically with ball pythons, that's why they're so popular in the pet trade. But yeah, so ball pythons are notorious for going off food. You can get them to go off food for like 6 months. And not only is that stressful for the snake, but it's stressful for you. And if this is your first time, this is your first snake that's gone off food, you know, the first week is like, what's going on? What am I doing wrong? And it could possibly be nothing. Ball pythons are just notorious for it. Obviously, you want to try to avoid it. But it's not going to be the end of the world. It's not like they're going to die. Typically speaking, now some cases, I can't, you know, vouch for all of them. So now you got the bowl, the tank, the lid, the light. What's next? You need substrate or bedding. Wide variety of what you can use for this. All the way from, you know, paper towels to newspaper to Repta carpet. Several different things. I strongly, I can't even stress it enough. I don't use sand for nothing. Never will, never have. It's not good for, personally, anything. You run chances of impactation, and that's when the sand gets in the stomach of whatever reptile. A lot of people keep bearded dragons, for instance. A lot of people keep bearded dragons on the sand, and bearded dragons like to lick their environment to taste it or whatever, you know. But they'll start getting that sand in their stomach, and they can't pass it. So now your reptile's got all the sand in its stomach. It could, you know, stop eating. It could continue to eat. But regardless, it can't pass nothing. So it's impacted. The sand is impacted in this animal's, you know, body. Take them to the vet. If you're lucky, you can save it. Sometimes you're not lucky. Sometimes you lose your animal. Personally, it's not worth that risk to put anything on sand. I don't even put my tortoises on sand. My babies, they're on Repticarpet right now. But regardless, what I personally choose, or personally use, I guess choose would work too, is this right here, aspen bedding. Several different reasons. Now, no, you cannot go to your pet store or Walmart, that's where I get this stuff, and just get any bag of what looks like this. No. There's pine, there's cedar. Cedar's real pretty, but don't do it. So pine and cedar, they have oils that are poisonous to your snakes. You don't want to lose your snake. Aspen is great. I use this for my rats, my mice, my African soft fur rats, my snakes, all my snakes. Anything that needs any other type of bedding other than Repticarpet gets this. Or, well, not anything, because I do have my tegu, my sand boas, and my box turtle on Eco Earth. Or Echo, no, it's Eco Earth, yeah. So it's just coconut husks, ground up, sorry. It's really good substrate. You could do ball pythons on it as well. It works. I just choose this. When it gets soiled, all you got to do is spot clean. It's real simple, real easy. However, even with this stuff, like I said, I get mine from Walmart. I buy a lot of it. Before I open it, I'll set it in the freezer for a few hours, even sometimes overnight, a couple days, whatever. That way it makes sure anything, if anything is in this, is dead. You don't have to worry about it. This stuff is just so easy to clean up after, where if you use newspaper or paper towel and your snake poops, now you gotta clean up the whole thing. And if you only got one snake or, 5 snakes, it's not bad. It's not hard work. It's still not hard work when you got, almost 40. But it's time consuming. So what I choose to do is the aspen bedding. It makes cleaning just easy, for lack of better words. And that's really about it. I mean, as long as you got your light on there, again, now that I'm come back to the light, I use 100 to 150 watt light bulbs. You can get them from Dollar General for like $2 instead of going to the pet shop and buying one. I've just had nothing but bad experience with the reptile light bulbs. Not saying anything bad about the certain brands or nothing like that. It's just I've never had luck with them getting them up to the temperatures. Now, mind you, the hot spot you want between 88 and about 96. That's ideal for the hot spot. This is a small tank, so that's why I use a small dome, right? And I'll sit it over top of the hide. Sometimes I'll put it in the middle, but generally over top of the hide. On top of the hide is going to be its hot spot. You want to measure that. You want to, measure it with a, I don't even know what it's called. I got a little gun that spits out the laser. I'm sure y'all know what I'm talking about. But you want to make sure that gets between, 88, 96. I like to keep mine somewhere right in the middle. The ambient temperature, which is the rest of the environment, you want that, between 78 to about 80. Never want to go below 75. Could cause a lot of issues like respiratory infections and stuff. You just don't want to go throughout that. It's really stressful. But the humidity, ideally, you want it to be between about 55% to about 60%. I'm in Florida. I don't have to worry about it. Obviously, I mean, I do have to worry about it, but Florida's, it's humid, real humid. And then the next thing I want to just go over real quick, sorry for the long video, but the next thing that's probably most important is going to be the size, because they're not going to stay this small forever. She already pooped since I put her in here, but they're not going to stay this size forever. I mean, yes, it's cute, looks all cuddly and whatnot, but there's a lot of different numbers getting thrown out here all the time. I'm going to say on average, sizes go between 3 to 5 feet, with females being on the larger size. And that's because of sexual dimorphism. The females are going to be bigger, most typically with all snakes, or I'll say most snakes, because there's a few out there probably. I don't even know, to be honest. But generally speaking, the females are going to be bigger than the males. It's not true with monitors and tegus and other reptiles of such. But with snakes, typically the females are bigger. The temperament on these guys, you can get some that are real bitey. Like I got a little baby. It's probably a little bit smaller than this girl. And every time I get her out, she wants to strike. And it could be several different reasons. They're most striky when they're, younger. But they calm down with age, in my experience anyways. And as long as you handle them, even though I have, about 40 snakes, I love to handle my snakes all the time. Unfortunately, I can't hold them all every day, but I make sure that they all get held. In like a 3-day span, I made sure that every snake gets held, and then it starts all over again. Ooh, look at that. I'm starting to armpit sweat. Got all my fans off in the room, and it's hot. But it's real simple. There's really nothing to it. If you guys have any other questions, don't be afraid to, comment them down. I'd love to answer them to the best of my ability. And if I can't, I'm sure I'll get Mad Bio. Am I saying it right? I'm sure he'll see the comments, and I'm sure he'll help you out. But got my Facebook page going, Grizzlies Exotics. I'm going to try to put a link in the description, so make sure you look out for that. And so far, so good. I'm going to be doing some shows here, hopefully soon. My permit should be coming back in through with FWC here, hopefully next week. I'll find out Monday. But I'm going to get some t-shirts printed out, so make sure you watch that. It's going to be on the Facebook page as well. Like I said, I'm going to try to put the link in the description, so you can check that out. Yeah, make sure you go like the page. That shows appreciation. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't already.